George Clooney has been the subject of divorce rumors for years, with tabloid headlines claiming his marriage to Amal is falling apart and that he's finally ready to confess the truth. This video examines what George Clooney has actually said about his marriage, what the so-called shocking confession really contains, and why the divorce narrative is completely fabricated. The reality turns out far less dramatic than those headlines promise. George and Amal Clooney remain happily married after more than a decade together, with no divorce filings and no separation announcements on record. George Clooney's actual confessions in recent interviews have nothing to do with his marriage ending, and they're about something else entirely. Before examining what George actually confessed, the facts about these divorce claims deserve scrutiny. A thorough search of publicly accessible records reveals 0 divorce proceedings initiated by either George or Amal Clooney, which means no court filings exist and no representatives have confirmed any separation. The divorce narrative traces exclusively to tabloid outlets citing unnamed sources, with Radar Online, In Touch Weekly, and Life and Style magazine all publishing stories claiming the marriage is over. Every single one relies on anonymous insiders, and no mainstream news organization has reported actual divorce proceedings. And here's what destroys those stories completely. April 2025 brought George Clooney to CBS Mornings, where he directly addressed his marriage by stating that he and Amal are having a really great time in life, and that they still haven't had an argument. He joked that they're trying to find something to fight about. When tabloids claimed George would live separately from his family during his Broadway run in New York, he shut that down with a simple response: they're in New York, and they've been here the whole time. Evidence against the divorce rumors extends well beyond George's statements, with the couple's public appearances throughout 2025 telling the real story. September 2024 brought George and Amal together at the Venice Film Festival for The Wolf's premiere, with Amal arriving in a Versace gown and walking the red carpet beside him. That same month, they hosted the Albee Awards in New York City, calling each other amazing throughout the evening. August 2025 saw their return to Venice for George's film J. Kelly, arriving via water taxi while holding hands, and George kissed Amal's hand for the photographers. This appearance came 5 months after tabloids had claimed they were in a trial separation. November 2025 placed them together at the Manila Social Good Summit, where Amal praised George as an amazing father, and December 2025 brought a romantic weekend getaway to the French Riviera. That same month, the entire family received French citizenship as a unit. None of these appearances suggest a couple on the verge of divorce. What then did George Clooney actually confess? The shocking confession that tabloids twisted into divorce drama concerns something far more relatable: getting older. October 2025 brought an extensive Esquire cover story, and at 64 years old, George opened up about aging in a way he never had before. He admitted that he's not thrilled with being 64, explaining how as you get older, it doesn't matter how many granola bars you eat, your brain starts to lock up. A story about attempting to dunk a basketball and falling prompted him to joke that loss of vertical jump might be a real sign of aging. Mortality and maximizing remaining time came up as well, with George explaining that he told Amal they have to focus on the next 20 or 25 years of making sure they're jamming in everything they can. Work alone won't fill that time, he clarified, because no one at the end of their life goes, "God, I wish I worked more." Another confession in that interview drew attention when George admitted to past substance use, acknowledging that he did blow and stuff. He immediately added context though, explaining that he used to make jokes about how he did too many drugs, but the truth is it was never a big issue for him at all. These candid observations about getting older, delivered with his characteristic humor, represent the closest thing to a shocking confession in George Clooney's recent interviews. Tabloids routinely repackage such moments into sensationalized clickbait. Understanding why people remain so fascinated by George Clooney's love life requires knowing his history. George Timothy Clooney entered the world on May 6, 1961 in Lexington, Kentucky. Born to TV broadcaster Nick Clooney and former Miss Kentucky runner-up Nina Bruce Warren. His aunt was Rosemary Clooney, the legendary singer who starred in White Christmas. Dr. Doug Ross on ER provided his breakthrough from 1994 to 1999, launching him into becoming one of Hollywood's biggest stars and most respected filmmakers. 2 Academy Awards sit on his shelf, one for Best Supporting Actor for Syriana in 2006, and another for Best Picture as producer of Argo in 2013. 6 additional nominations span 6 different categories, a feat matched only by Walt Disney and Alfonso Cuarón. His filmography spans the Ocean's 11 trilogy, Up in the Air, The Descendants, Gravity, Michael Clayton, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? While his directing credits include 9 films such as Good Night and Good Luck, The Midnight Sky, and The Boys in the Boat. 2025 marked his Broadway debut as Edward R. Murrow in Good Night and Good Luck, earning him a Tony nomination. $500 million represents his estimated net worth, with the bulk coming from Casamigos Tequila, the brand he co-founded in 2013 with Rande Gerber and Michael Meldman. Diageo purchased it for $1 billion in June 2017, and George's pre-tax share came to approximately $230 million. Forbes named him highest-paid actor of 2018 despite no blockbuster release that year. Before Amal, there was Talia Balsam. December 1989 brought their wedding, performed by an Elvis impersonator in Las Vegas, and September 1993 brought its end. George has always accepted full responsibility, stating that he wasn't very good at it and that he was responsible for the failure of that marriage. For the next 21 years, George became famous for declaring he would never marry again. 1995 brought his statement that he won't marry again because he wasn't very good at it. 2008 brought another declaration that he doesn't expect to ever get married again or have children. January 2014, just months before meeting Amal, brought yet another comment about how this fascination with his love life is really something, how he keeps saying he'll never get married again or have children, but people just don't want to believe him. A famous bet illustrates just how certain everyone was about George's bachelor status. Michelle Pfeiffer and Nicole Kidman each wagered $10,000 that he would have children by age 40. George won that bet, but then lost when twins arrived at age 50. George and Amal's meeting reads like something from a romantic comedy, except it actually happened. July 2013 placed Amal at George's Lake Como villa in Italy. Brought by a mutual friend, and his agent had called beforehand with an unusual prediction. He had met this woman who was coming to George's house, and George was going to marry her. Timing made the meeting even more memorable. George's parents happened to be visiting, which meant Amal met the entire Clooney family on day 1. Their first official date came in October 2013 at Abbey Road Studios in London, where George was attending the score recording for The Monuments Men, and 50 paparazzi waited for them at dinner. George later recalled that Amal handled it like a champ. April 28, 2014 brought the engagement, with George hiding a 7-carat emerald-cut diamond ring valued at approximately $585,000 inside a lighter box. Amal's shock upon finding it meant 20 to 25 minutes passed before she said yes. September 27, 2014 marked the wedding at the Aman Canal Grande Venice Resort in a 16th-century palazzo, with guests including Matt Damon, Cindy Crawford, Bill Murray, Bono, Emily Blunt, and Anna Wintour. The final cost reached approximately $4.6 million. June 6, 2017 brought twins Ella and Alexander Clooney into the world at St. Mary's Hospital in London, and the family's official statement read that George is sedated and should recover in a few days. The twins now speak fluent Italian, English, and French, prompting George to joke that he doesn't speak Italian and his wife doesn't speak Italian, so they've armed the children with a language. George's October 2025 Esquire interview revealed his priorities clearly when discussing legacy. He explained that's the legacy he wants, for there to be this thing in their chests that says Papa, for them to think this would make Papa proud. Understanding who Amal Clooney is helps explain why these divorce rumors persist, because she's not a typical Hollywood spouse, which makes their relationship harder for tabloids to categorize. Amal Clooney works as a British-Lebanese international human rights barrister at Doughty Street Chambers, while also serving as a professor at Oxford's Blavatnik School of Government. Her client list reads like a who's who of international human rights cases, including Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, Yazidi human rights activist and Nobel laureate Nadia Murad, Filipino journalist and Nobel laureate Maria Ressa, former Maldivian President Mohamed Nasheed, and former Ukrainian Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko. Legal 500 named her International Lawyer of the Year in 2024. The Clooney Foundation for Justice emerged in 2016 from George and Amal's partnership, providing free legal aid defending free speech and women's rights in more than 40 countries. Their annual Albie Awards honor human rights defenders from around the world. George's own words about Amal make the divorce rumors even more absurd. His April 2025 CBS Mornings interview contained his declaration that he feels so extraordinarily lucky to have met this incredible woman, that he feels as if he hit the jackpot, and that there isn't a day that goes by that he doesn't think he's the luckiest man in the world. August 2025 at the Venice Film Festival brought him calling Amal the most extraordinary human he's ever met, noting that she's brilliant and stands for things that matter. And then came something that directly contradicts every divorce headline ever written about them. Not being married to her would have been a disaster. November 2025 prompted a CBS News question about vanity at his age, and George's response captured how he sees himself now. He explained that if you're hanging on to any kind of vanity at 64 years old, you're chasing your tail. He is who he is, he looks like what he looks like, and he'll be all right. The tabloid rumor pattern targeting the Clooneys follows a predictable cycle. First comes a trigger, with the couple's demanding careers requiring travel, George doing a Broadway show, and Amal taking on international human rights cases, all normal professional life for two successful people. Then comes the spin, with tabloids reframing this normal professional life as living separate lives. Next come anonymous sources, with stories citing unnamed insiders and no on-the-record confirmation from anyone. Then comes contradiction, with the couple appearing together publicly, displaying affection, holding hands, and making statements about their happiness. Finally comes the reset, and the cycle starts over with a new trigger. The Clooneys have faced this pattern repeatedly, and each wave of speculation has passed without any tangible evidence of a split. Red flags in these divorce claims stay consistent across every story, all sourced to anonymous insiders, none including court documents or legal filings, none including official spokesperson comments, all contradicted by the couple's own statements and public appearances, and all published exclusively in tabloid outlets rather than mainstream news. Looking at George Clooney at 64, here's what the evidence actually shows. More than a decade of marriage to Amal, 7-year-old twins who speak 3 languages, homes in multiple countries, recent French citizenship granted to the whole family, continued appearances together at public events displaying affection, glowing statements about Amal in every interview. The shocking confession that tabloids spun into divorce drama amounts to George Clooney talking honestly about getting older. He's not thrilled about being 64. His vertical jump isn't what it used to be. He wants to make the most of his time with his family. These are not confessions of a man whose marriage is falling apart, but rather reflections of a man who knows what matters to him. These fake divorce stories persist for a particular reason. George Clooney spent 21 years as Hollywood's most famous bachelor, repeatedly declaring he would never marry again and insisting he didn't want children. And then Amal appeared, and everything changed. That transformation proved hard for some people to believe. A man who swore off marriage fell completely in love at 52 and became a father at 56. The tabloid narrative of an inevitable divorce plays into the idea that the old George lurks somewhere inside, that the bachelor will eventually resurface. Evidence tells a different story, though. Every public statement, every joint appearance, every photograph communicates the same message. George Clooney found the person who changed his mind about everything he thought he knew about himself. One of his 2025 interviews included a question about legacy, and his answer had nothing to do with movies or awards or money. He talked about wanting his children to have something in their chests that says Papa, about being the kind of father whose approval they seek and whose pride they value. For a man who once seemed destined to live and die as Hollywood's eternal bachelor, that represents the real transformation, not the tequila fortune, not the Oscar wins, not even the marriage itself. Becoming a father in his late 50s and discovering that it's the role he was meant to play all along. Returning to the question posed by clickbait headlines, did George Clooney break his silence on his divorce and make a shocking confession? No, there is no divorce, no court filings, no separation announcement. What George Clooney did do is speak candidly about getting older, admitting he's not thrilled about being 64, acknowledging that his body doesn't work the way it used to, and talking about wanting to maximize his remaining time with his family. He also confessed to past casual drug use, which he immediately minimized as never being a big issue. These are confessions of a man in his mid-60s reflecting on life. They're honest and self-deprecating and delivered with the same dry humor that has defined his public persona for decades. They are not evidence of a marriage in crisis. The Clooneys remain one of Hollywood's most stable couples, now French citizens raising bilingual twins while continuing to run their human rights foundation and appearing together at award shows and film festivals. George still calls Amal the most extraordinary human he's ever met. Amal still calls him an amazing father. For anyone hoping for divorce drama, the reality disappoints. For anyone who remembers George Clooney as the eternal bachelor who surprised everyone by falling in love, the reality actually makes for a pretty good story. He found the person who changed everything. A decade later, he's still talking about how lucky he is. That's not a shocking confession. It's just a happy ending that tabloids can't accept.